Hello beautiful people, and welcome to your astrological video. In this one we're going to be focusing on the full moon in Sagittarius, the blue moon, because this is the second full moon we are experiencing this month. We began with the full moon in Scorpio, then in the middle of May we had the new moon in Taurus, which yes, I skipped. I didn't have the opportunity to record my own video. I recorded one with my husband Aaron, the sunlight, so yeah, we pulled cards for that one, and this time I'm hopping on to cover the full moon in Sagittarius we will be experiencing on Sunday, on the final day of May 31st, and technically that will end the month of the May, because on Monday we will enter into month of June, and that will be the final month of this half of the 2026. So who can believe it, almost halfway through. And before I get into the astrology, I just would like to make an announcement. As I mentioned potentially in my previous video, I don't remember if I said that, but I know that I mentioned it on my social media in the caption. So yes, if you are celebrating your birthday, of course, you can claim 25% of any of my reading, but also because of the squeeze we are all experiencing at the moment, and not everybody is able to justify a reading but might need a reading or would benefit from a reading. Myself and Aaron also are offering donation-based readings. So if you would like one of those, so you would like to connect but the price is a little bit too steep for you or not something you can justify at the moment, but you would like a reading and to connect with us, then email us directly on my or Aaron's email address, moonlights369 at gmail.com, or ariespointproject at gmail.com, and then we can sort something out. So yeah, so this is something that I wanted to mention because I had the plans to mention it on my new moon in Taurus video, but that one never got recorded. So here we are. All right, so with that out of the way, now I am going to have a look what actually is going on, because to be honest, life is happening. So when life is happening, I don't really have time to check astrology every day. So I don't always know exactly what's going on in the sky. I am actually pre-recording this. I will be releasing this on Sunday, so by the time you're watching this, probably I will release it actually exactly as the full moon hits. So you will be experiencing exactly the energies that I am going to talk about. But yes, we entered into this weekend, the final weekend for the month of May, with the Venus-Saturn square energy, right? Yes, that was on Thursday night, Friday morning, depending where you are in the world. But yeah, Venus squared Saturn. So with regards to Venus to Saturn, this was the first quarter square, which is the crisis in action. This is still something that's present for this full moon. And also moon entered into the sign of Sagittarius in the morning of Saturday the 30th, and then, as I already mentioned, on Sunday we'll be experiencing the full moon in Sagittarius alongside with Mercury making a sextile to Chiron, and that will then take us into the whole new month, the month of June, and we'll have a lot of things happening then. Especially on Monday, Mercury will move into the sign of Cancer, and then a lot of other things. So anyway, regarding the charts, so this is a full moon. So as I always say, full moon is the midpoint. So it's the illumination of the energy that got seeded. And in this case, new moon in Sagittarius took place on December 20th, 2025. That was on this 28 degrees. So it was third of the 6 new moons that we experienced from the new moon in Libra until the new moon in Pisces, and they were all on 28 degrees. I already mentioned this in my previous video. So this was all about the energy of the number 1 or 10, number 10, the year we are experiencing at the moment. So this was the third of the 6th lunation, the new moon in Sagittarius, and also it was the final lunation for the year 2025. We ended 2025 with the energy of this lunation, new moon in Sagittarius on 28 degrees, and at the time of this lunation we actually had all the planets back in their former signs. So Saturn, Neptune were back in the sign of Pisces, already direct at that time, and Uranus was back in the sign of Taurus but still retrograde at the time, and also I believe Chiron was still retrograde as well. So that moon was actually in a square with Saturn and Neptune. Saturn and Neptune were squaring this moon, and it was with regards to the new moon as an energy. It was the first quarter square for Saturn and Neptune. So saying, okay, crisis in action. Okay, something has to happen, something has to change, because something was being seeded at this time. And also at that time we had Jupiter retrograde. Jupiter, as the ruler of Sagittarius, was retrograde, and it was in a trine with this Saturn and Neptune. Back in the sign of Pisces at the time. Jupiter was trining them. And with regards to both Saturn and Neptune to Jupiter, this was a what we call the Leo trine, the first trine. So this is about creation. What are we creating? New story. At the time of the new moon in Sagittarius on December 20th, 2025, Jupiter was on 22 degrees, which is a master number. Frequency is the master builder and is also a degree associated with Capricorn. So that is all about the taking responsibility for the creation. And I'm sure I already covered this in my previous video where I said that the only freedom that we actually have and the freedom that we truly seek in is not money. It's the freedom to be able to choose and choose what you want to create, how you want to experience reality. And actually this freedom is always available to us. It's just a matter of taking responsibility for the results or after effects of our choices and decisions. So anyway, that's for another theme, because of course we will be heading towards new moon in Gemini, so that's a better time to potentially talk about it. But yes, this, as I mentioned, is the full moon, and this cycle that began with the new moon in Sagittarius in 2025 on December 20th will be completed and resetted on December 8th, 2026. So that's the next time we will experience new moon in Sagittarius. It will not be the final lunation for this year, but yeah, this is the day when it will be happening. So going back to this full moon in Sagittarius, which we are experiencing now on Sunday the 31st of May, this one is taking place on 9 degrees and 55 minutes, which is also interesting because the new moon in Sagittarius 2025 was happening on the final decan of Sagittarius, the 28 degrees final decan of Sagittarius, which is a Leo decan, all about creation. This one is happening on 9 degrees. This full moon, which is the first decan of Sagittarius, is actually Sagittarian degree as well. So it's saying about what are we, well, also with regards to numerology, the number 9 is associated with ending. So what are we ending? What is ending? The story of the past. Also important thing to mention, the deeper I get into transits, is that it is squaring the lunar nodes. So both sun and the moon being in opposition are squaring the lunar nodes, still within the degrees. And then the new moon in Sagittarius in December will be on the second decan of Sagittarius, which is about Aries. So that will be a reset of the old energy, going into new direction. All the planets, of course, still in these new signs, which we are already experiencing at the moment. Plus, at the time, Jupiter will be already in Leo. At the moment, Jupiter is still in the sign of Cancer. We will experience 2 more lunations with Jupiter in a sign of Cancer. That will be the next new moon, which will be the new moon in Gemini. And also at the end of June, we will experience the full moon in Capricorn, which will be actually the final lunation with Jupiter in the sign of Cancer. And on the same day later on, or day later, depending where you are in the world, Jupiter will move into the sign of Leo. So for the full moon, new moon in Sagittarius in December, we'll have Jupiter already in the sign of Leo. At the time, I believe, already retrograde. Let me just double check that. But yeah, this is obviously still pre-retrograde. Jupiter will station retrograde very late this year. So going back to this full moon in Sagittarius on 9 degrees 55 minutes, so 9 degrees about ending, Sagittarius, first decan of Sagittarius, what's happening? The old story is ending. Jupiter is in a sign of Cancer. Jupiter, of course, is direct as of March 10th, and Jupiter is on 23 degrees now, so only a degree difference from where it was during the new moon in Sagittarius in December 2025. And 23 apart from being an Aquarian decan, 23, it's also 2 and 3, 5 is the number of chaos. So as we know, not that I'm like privy to all the details and informations as usual, minding my own business over here, but still being aware and conscious of world being in upheaval and things happening. The energies that are micro to macro, and also we are experiencing them in some way in our personal lives, are creating disruptions which are forcing us to pay attention, to be present in a present moment, in this case with the number 9, to realize what lost meaning, what we no longer want to keep experiencing or re-experiencing our life, because of course Sagittarius, it's about the story, the horizons, the truth, the philosophies, but also it's about expansion. And as I mentioned, Jupiter is nearing his end through Cancer, and this is also a realization that I've had recently, that we don't truly really understand the energy of Jupiter transiting through any sign until it leaves the sign, because Jupiter spends a long time retrograde. So pretty much most of Jupiter being in one sign is either pre-retrograde shadow, retrograde, or post-retrograde shadow, because Jupiter is retrograde about 5 months a year. So this is why most of the time we don't really understand what the energy of Jupiter in any signs mean until it moved on. So right now we have a much deeper understanding about Jupiter in Aries, because of course Jupiter in Cancer is squaring the point of Jupiter in Aries. Then Jupiter in Taurus, like what is your truth? What really, holds a value for you? Jupiter in Gemini, what we were processing throughout 2024 and 2025, and especially understanding, potentially the meaning of when Jupiter moved into the sign of Cancer, which is where it is now. So we will understand more of Jupiter in Cancer once Jupiter moves into Leo and makes its transit through Leo, and so on and so forth. So Jupiter is the ruler of Sagittarius, and also still currently the core ruler of the North Node that is being squared, alongside with the South Node, both being squared by the Sun and the Moon. Sun is actually the one that is pointing to the North Node. Sun being a sign of Gemini, it's saying about making a new choices, finding a new truth, finding new information based on which you understand what is and isn't working for you. Moon being a sign of Sagittarius, of course having the mutual reception with Jupiter in the sign of Cancer, squaring the lunar nodes is pointing to the South Node. South Node in Virgo on 9 degrees. This old way of, South Node in Virgo on 3 degrees. The lunation is on 9 degrees. The nodes are on 3 degrees, which is the Jupiter degree. It's the degree of expansion, and also the degree associated with Venus. And we have Venus coming into conjunction with Jupiter currently during the time of this full moon in Sagittarius. Venus is in a closing phase, balsamic phase conjunction with Jupiter, and they are going to have a conjunction on June 9th, so before the new moon in Gemini, which we will experience on June 14th. So Jupiter closing to Venus closing to Jupiter in the sign of Cancer. Of course, Venus is no longer the ruler of Uranus, because Uranus is currently in the sign of Gemini, so it's connected to Mercury. Mercury, as I mentioned, is still during the time of this full moon in the sign of Gemini, the sign of his rulership, on 28 degrees and 3 minutes. And Mercury being connected to Uranus, currently in a new phase conjunction with Uranus, still long wide orb, but still being in the same house, being in the same sign. Technically house, that depends which house system you use. And also Uranus being in this new cycle with the Sun, because they had a conjunction, first one in the sign of Gemini probably in more than 8 decades. In the sign of Gemini, which was only a week prior on the 22nd of May. So even though there is a new cycle between Sun and Uranus, with regards to Uranus as a static point in this chart, it is closing to the Sun. So Uranus being on the 2 degrees are that's a degree of choice, right? It's a degree of partnership. What are we choosing? Uranus also is squaring the lunar nodes, not yet the exact square. The exact square between Uranus and the lunar nodes is happening on 12th of June, so we will have that present also for the new moon in Gemini. Resolution, North Node. North Node in Pisces, what are we releasing? So we're going back to this Jupiter as a core ruler of the North Node, and also Neptune as the core ruler of the North Node, the modern ruler of Pisces. Actually, both Saturn and Neptune are now making a trine to this full moon in Sagittarius. Unlike during the new moon in Sagittarius, they were both squaring it, but now they trining it, both within the orb and sextile in the Sun. So this is all about the new direction that we are all like it or not, being forced into choosing that, okay, well, this doesn't work, doesn't feel too great. Now with Uranus done with Taurus, are my needs being met? Am I being seen? Am I being appreciated? Of course, that will be even more tangible in our experience once the South Node moves into the sign of Leo, North Node into the sign of Aquarius, which will be at the end of July. So we are starting to tune into all of these energies. Also with Jupiter moving into the sign of Leo, everything will be exaggerated, because Jupiter amplifies everything Jupiter touches. So technically Jupiter is amplifying this new moon, because apart from the fact that it rules it, full moon, it is in a mutual reception with the moon. So there is a huge amplification. So how is this going to play out? In macro is to be seen. Obviously, the after effects are going to be digested until we have the new moon in Sagittarius, which is when this cycle will end. But also important thing to pay attention to, this is the final full moon with Chiron on this end, with Chiron on in the sign of Aries, because Chiron is going to move into the sign of Taurus. I believe it's June 19th. Let me double check that. Yeah, June 19th. So that will be after the new moon in Gemini, but it will be before the full moon in Capricorn. So yeah, so Chiron is on the anaretic 29 degree. Chiron in a sign of oil, technically already in the square with Pluto, right? In a square with Pluto. This is a first quarter square for Chiron. So this is a crisis in action again. We have to choose. Chiron is in the third decan of Aries, which of course is a Sagittarius decan. 29 degree is a Leo degree. So what are we creating? What direction are we creating? What story are we creating? So how this would play out, so yeah, let me just quickly have a look what else is going on there. As I mentioned, Venus is close into Jupiter. Venus is actually in the sign of Cancer. It's on the 14 degrees. So yeah, Venus is technically still in a square with Uranus, in a square with Neptune, and also in a square with Saturn, which, as I mentioned, we entered with the energy off into this weekend. So there is a lot of pressure on Venus, being the sign of Cancer second decan. So this is a Scorpio decan to transform the sense of identity. As I mentioned, with this moon and Jupiter, amplification of the mutual reception, and Jupiter being the ruler of this lunation, the story of who we were is very limiting. It is no longer working for us. That's why there are these squares. That's why there is this energy that what we are experiencing in our personal life in many cases, but of course most tangibly on the collective level, it is not in resonance. It doesn't work for us anymore, because with all of these planets, also Chiron, Chiron is too far, so Chiron is too far to be technically trining this moon, but yeah, based on the sign it is trining it, but it is too far based on degrees. But yeah, with the Chiron moving into Taurus very soon, so he will become he will be ruled by Venus, just like Uranus was in the past, since 2018, past 8 years. So Venus is playing the role. She always is, because she's personal planets, and it rules the relational dynamics of how we relate, how we relate to reality, how we relate to one another. And of course, we're talking about Sagittarius full moon. So what is the story? What is the context? What is the script? And like I said, with Jupiter moving into the sign of Leo, the amplification of that which we desire to create and experience, that would give us a sense of joy, would be amplified. So what is most likely to happen, we will experience the contrast, because the contrast then makes us aware of what is desired. So we will experience the contrast of, what it is that I want to experience, that would that would allow me to be authentic, and that would allow me to not need the external validation, but also it would give me a sense of joy. It would give me a sense of happiness, right? Because eventually, bottom line is that's what everybody's seeking. People just want to be happy, they just want to live a life in alignment with what they feel would make them happy, what they feel that would make them feel connected, would make them feel more alive, right? The Leo, like you shining. So this is all something that we build up towards, of course, being in a Gemini season, or still in the first decan of Gemini, so that we'll move into the Libra decan literally a day later. On the 1st of June, we will move into the Libra decan of Gemini, which is all about balancing, which again doesn't get lost on me. Right after full moon in Sagittarius, full moon opposition, so that's the Libra energy, we will have the Sun moving into the second decan of Gemini, which is the Libra decan. So anyway, so going back to these energies, and I'm just like, what am I missing? Yeah, Pluto is trining the Sun. Yeah, so this is very important. Pluto is trining the Sun, it's sextiling the Moon. Moon is in a closing sextile to closing sextile. So this is the Aquarius sextile, so the releasing sextile. So this is all connected to the same thing. With the Pluto being a sign of Aquarius, which we have been experiencing on and off since 2023. Now, Pluto is retrograde on 5 degrees 22 minutes. That's great, because that means that I'm gonna have another Pluto square soon. So Pluto is retrograde on the 5 degree, which is the degree of creation, you know, the degree of Leo. 22 minutes, of course, it's the mass number frequency, same, well, the degree on which Jupiter was last year on the new moon in Sagittarius. So Pluto is trining the sun. So it's saying that, okay, we are ready to create. With regards to Pluto to sun, this is the harvesting trine, that we are ready to create something that goes beyond. You know, now Uranus being in Gemini, there are many, many timelines available, with Mercury being on the 28 degrees, which is the degree where the new moon in Sagittarius was last year, just about to move into the sign of Cancer, you know, which is going to help us to enhance our intuition, the language of our soul. But still, regardless, Mercury being still in the sign of Gemini, which is where, you know, Mercury is powerful, it rules Gemini. So as the ruler of Uranus, Uranus as the ruler of Pluto. So here we have the opportunity to choose. Like, we are not yet at the new moon in Gemini, so this is where we will see the choice. We will see the timelines. At the moment, we are experiencing illumination of what was. At the same time, there was already a seedling of the potential for the new, you know, the new story, the new timeline, the new expansion. It already happened. It already happened in December, right? But now we have the illumination, whereas the illumination, as I said, the opposition is the Libra energy. It shows us the contrast. Where am I not experiencing that? Okay, in December, there was a seeding of this new energy. Everything was in the old sign, so it's okay, well, we have the analytics. You know, we understand the totality. Let's go back, you know, revisit the old patterns of Saturn, Neptune in Pisces, you know, this Uranus in Taurus. So let's revisit all of that at the same time, you know, through the contrast. So we see the old, we have the energy of the new, the seeding of the new timelines, the seeding of the new chapter for humanity, for you as a person, for collective. And now we go into the future now, right here, right now, which is the future of the December 2025. And now there is an illumination. Now everybody is in a new signs, you know, Saturn, Neptune in Aries, now no longer squaring this moon, so creating pressure. The pressure is something that we've been experiencing in the past 6 months, but now we are experiencing the trine. So it's saying like, okay, yeah, you're ready for it, you're ready for it. Now through the last, almost 6 months of experiencing this energy, you know, because everything, of course, is layered. So it's not like, oh yeah, I've just been focusing on Sagittarius for the past 6 months or 5 months, whatever. No, everything is in action all the time. You know, there are just different layers of experience because we are multidimensional. The soul is not just focusing on one thing. You know, there are all these things happening simultaneously. But regarding, you know, with regards to or connected to Sagittarius energy, it said, okay, you know, on the 20th of December 2025, on the 28th degree, we seeded the energy of the future. You know, also let's not forget that was, you know, very close to the galactic center, in conjunction with the galactic center. So we see this energy of the future, you know, but all the planets gone back to the old signs, you know, like Uranus was still retrograde, the other two weren't, but they were on the old sign, Pisces. So we are experiencing the energy of the new, but the reality is the old, right? So now, fast forward 31st of May, between December 20th and 31st of May, what have you been going through, you know, in your personal life and also on the collective level? What have we been going through? We were experiencing both, you know, we were experiencing all these new energies because, of course, Neptune entered Aries in January, Saturn in February, they had a conjunction, right? So new cycle between the two. Then Uranus just entered Gemini in April, you know, literally like just over a month ago. And now we're preparing for this Chiron ingression, Jupiter ingression next month, and then in July the nodes are shifted. So we are in between, you know, all of these different energies, everything is happening at the same time, but we are also feeling a lot of things, especially with Jupiter being in Cancer, in this mutual reception, 11-11 over here, in this mutual reception with the actual lunation ruled by Jupiter. Everything is extremely amplified, and with the 23 degrees for Jupiter, it's saying like, okay, yeah, it's a bloody chaos out there, you know, like you have certain feelings, certain desires, certain understanding, certain potentially I don't know, information, feelings, sensations, whatever that is, that are telling you, this is what I want, this is my new desire, I want to experience this, I know it's already here, I could feel the seedlings of it last year, you know. But at the same time, we're still living in the world that is an after effect of the past, right? So it's like, okay, so with this middle point, it's saying, well, how can we balance the two? You know, how can we go closer to that which is the desired potential of the future? And it's interesting because of that 24, 42, 6, 6, right? Number 12, you know, the hangman. We have to change the perspective, because with the number 9, you know, the number of this moon on number 9, it's saying that yes, we have to understand, you know, with the Sagittarius energy, but also the energy of the completion, like what all of this meant. Sun is squaring the lunar nodes, pointing to the north node. You know, then the moon is squaring the lunar nodes, pointing to the south node. Yes, everything that we've gone through and everything we've experienced, it held a meaning. It created the story of humanity as we know it now. Doesn't mean it's true, you know. Sagittarius is mutable sign, remember. You know, Gemini is a mutable sign, is a trickster, remember. So that's what I also feel, you know, sidetrack, with the Uranus being the sign of Gemini. It is going to like tear apart all the illusions, you know, all the through the potentially trickery, a lot of information information overload through this transit of Uranus through the sign of Gemini. Eventually all of that will be dismantled, you know. There will be like it will all like just you know, just like with Pluto with Capricorn, the structure of reality as we know it is finished, right? Uranus in Gemini, by the time Uranus is done with Gemini, like you will not know what is true. Like everything will be everything, right? But that's why it's so important, you know, now with this transit in Jupiter in Cancer, that we need to learn to trust ourselves. We need to learn to trust our inner guidance. You know, we need to learn to trust something that is beyond the logical mind. That's why with this Mercury on 28 degrees at the time of this full moon, it's on Aquarian decan, and 28 degrees is a Cancer degree, right? So like the Aquarian way is through the inner world, the guidance of the inner. What is your truth? What is the story that you want to experience, you want to create? And it is not easy, because with this Venus in Cancer close into Jupiter, going through this transformation on that Scorpionic decan and 14 degrees Taurus degree, we are creating foundation through everything that we know is dying. You know, everything that created the foundation of the life that we are experiencing at the moment is dead. It lost the meaning, because Uranus is now done with Taurus. So that's why with this Sagittarius full moon, there is so much illumination of something that potentially is the contrast to what you really desire, and making us see that yes, for as long as we continue this pattern, this way of thinking, believing this story, believing that this is the only truth, this is the only result we can have, and that result, the manifestation, you know, especially now with the Saturn in Aries on the second decan, which is the Leo decan on 12 degrees, Pisces degree, it lost meaning. You know, it lost meaning now, like to continue to live life this way. That's why so many people, and you know, wherever you go in the world, you can see people becoming more conscious of their grief, you know, like where did they play small? Where did they allow, you know, to play a role? Where did they allow themselves, or without knowing that they had a choice, they played a role that they don't want to play, that doesn't feel good, you know, that is like, no, I want to have equal opportunities. I want to be able to live life like everybody else is living life. You know, why just because I come from this country, or, you know, I am living in this place, I shouldn't have the same opportunities, not necessarily just material, but the same opportunity for equality and happiness and stuff. So that's why, you know, with the Aquarius, the unity through diversity, we are becoming more and more conscious and aware what is not in alignment with that frequency. So that's why with, you know, this Pluto trine in the Sun during the time of this lunation, obviously the exact trine already took place 4 days prior. So Sunday, when was that? Let me see. I have so many things opened here. Let me see if this is where it is. Where was the exact trine? Yeah, on the 26th. Yeah, 26th, Tuesday 26th. So this is when we had the exact trine between Sun and Pluto. But it is active, still active during the time of this lunation. So that's why Pluto is still sextile in the moon. Moon is closing to Pluto. So it's saying that, okay, we are releasing this story of who we were, because with the Jupiter in a sign of Cancer, you know, this is still the final decan of Cancer, Pisces, you know, and like I said, the lunation is squaring the lunar nodes, saying because this way of living, this over-identifying through labels, you know, this is your nationality, this is your religion, this is your ancestor line, this is this is that, and that determines your destiny. No, it doesn't. Not anymore. Because with the age of Aquarius in opposition with Leo, you are constantly being challenged to break the patterns of the past, and therefore your destiny is changing all the time, right? You are creating the destiny as you go. So this is, and I know I mentioned that during the full moon in Scorpio, that, or one of the previous lunations that I recorded a video on my own, that in a sense it feels that we have much more free will now than we did in a very long time, even though based on the situations and circumstances that are playing out in the world on the stage of the macro stage, you might think is the opposite. You might think that, oh yeah, well, all of these things are happening and we're so restricted, we don't really have choice because there are people in charge of the world that have everything, all the resources in their control. I can't control it, blah, blah, blah. But that's an aspect of it. That's the three-dimensional experience, that, this is the evidence, the Virgo, here is the evidence, here is the data, here is the, the logical approach, right? But there is this other thing, especially with Mercury on that Aquarian decan of Gemini, right? And the degree of Cancer, which is saying that, okay, but tune in to what feels right to you, what feels right. And then you will understand that which is, it's now old, the pattern has already been broken. Pluto has been in a sign of Aquarius for 3 years now, on and off, but fully since, what was it, 2024, right? November 2024, that it fully entered and didn't go back. So this is what I mean. So we are becoming more and more aware and conscious of the fact that yes, there are things happening out there and a lot of them are not in resonance. Now, if all I believe is what I see, then yeah, I'm stuck in that Maya, in that illusion that this is all there is. So just like what I was saying, the world out there wants you to believe that all that you can choose from is what you see. It wants you to believe that you don't have a free will and you're not free to choose because somebody else that has a power over the world is choosing for you and you are just a puppet. In one way, yes, but that is not the total truth. It's like literally whatever if you believe that's true, and it's aspect of it is true, but there are a lot of aspects of it which are not truth, that no, actually I am still a sovereign being. So that's what I was starting to say, with this true freedom, true freedom we always have, while you're here on this planet, because I don't know, like maybe not all planets you have freedom or free will, I don't know, but right here, right now, going back to what I just said, I feel we have much more free will to our disposal than ever before. Now, I don't know if ever, but, at least in our lived life, of those of you that are currently incarnate, because Saturn is now in Aries, Neptune is in Aries, the cycle has ended, the cycle has ended, Neptune going through all the signs, Saturn going through all the signs, even though, of course, Saturn's cycle is much shorter, but it ended, it ended almost simultaneously, 1 month apart. So the old roles that we played, the old contracts that we played, they are complete. So just like I said to my clients, the recent ones that I did a reading for, I said, imagine that the series that you've been watching, the TV show that you've been watching on the TV has ended. So you have now that whole bunch of actors without a role, that's all just running around like, okay, well, this role is complete. Now we are all free, free to choose a new role. So what am I going to do? Am I going to go to someone else to go like, hey, you tell me what role to play, or am I going to choose myself? So this is the difference. This is the split of the consciousness. Am I going to keep looking at the world out there and say, okay, this is what's happening, so this is my life, it's going to be fully decided and impacted and influenced just by everybody out there, or am I going to create my own? And it sounds much easier than, it sounds easy. But it's not easy because we have all these programs, we have all this trauma, like emotional, somatic, that is embodied in our bodies, that's something that we agree to be born into, the memory of the past. So that's why you have the lunation squaring both nodes, the sun is pointing to the north node, with the Gemini energy, like you can choose to go above and beyond, rise above the program of the past, because Mercury is already in Aquarian decan of Gemini. Gemini, just about to move into Cancer, saying that I see the pattern, this doesn't work, you know, it's going to create the same bullshit, you know. And then we have this moon, you know, in a sign of Sagittarius on the 9 degrees, squaring the south node in the sign of Virgo, saying yes, we live this way, yes. And at some point that was the expansion of the humanity and allowed for all of this to happen, for all of this to exist, that which we are experiencing right now. But this story has ended, it's complete, it's finished, you know. Jupiter is on Pisces and Decan of Cancer already on the 23 degree, Aquarian degree, the number 5, the chaos. Yeah, the chaos is happening to make us pay attention and to go, this doesn't work for me, it is not my truth, you know. I don't want this to be happening in my name, I don't want this to be my reality, because this is not in resonance with who I'm choosing to become. And what is that? Well, that's what we're choosing, you know. And in order for that to come into manifestation, with Saturn moving into Taurus in 2028, we have to take responsibility for the choices we are making, for the thought we are choosing, for the information we are digesting. So that's why with the Sun being the sign of Gemini, you know, and Moon being the sign of Sagittarius, a lot of this is being illuminated. What am I digesting? You know, with the Moon in a mutual reception with Jupiter, what am I digesting? What are the information? What is the story that I keep repeating, I keep reprogramming myself with? Because yes, because those out there want you to believe that this is the only way it is, but it isn't. You know, when you travel the world, that's why traveling is Sagittarius, you know, the expansion of consciousness. You can experience it for yourself. And even if you travel with your best friends, you're both gonna experience it differently, right? Because it's your own world that is projected onto the outer world, and you see things as who you are, not as what they are, you know. So that's what I mean. So in order to see the things as how you want them to be, you have to change, I have to change, we all have to change, and we have to change the way we identify and what we perceiving. So this is what this lunation, with all these, you know, different aspects and things that are going on there, this is what is illuminating to us. It's saying, do you believe you have a free will? Do you believe you have a free will choice? Or do you believe that all of these things out there, you know, that yes, many of these are not in our control? That's true. You know, they are not in our control because there are collective contracts in place, you know, that are happening, that are unfolding and stuff. But as I mentioned many times before, whether on my channel or Lada's channel or whatever, you know, nothing would be allowed to happen if it didn't have potential for some, like nothing perceived as negative would be allowed to happen by the law of balance, one of the universal laws, if it didn't have a positive potential in it. You know, that's the yin and yang. Again, I said this before, the yin yang, you can see, is the black with the white dot and the white with the black dot. That's what it means, you know, that nothing could happen if it didn't have the opportunity to become the other thing. You know, both are happening simultaneously. So all of these things that are happening out in the outer reality that are not perceived as, they are perceived as not very good, you know, they're not good, you know, like from the human perspective of polarity and duality and preference, no thank you. Don't want to keep experiencing that. From the universal consciousness, everything is perfect because everything is in balance, everything serves. So all the bad things happening are creating pressure, you know, the square to the lunar nodes, lunar axis being in Virgo Pisces, the collective consciousness, for change to take place. At the time of seeding of this new moon, of this full moon, it was squaring Saturn and Neptune. Saturn is the physical manifested reality. Neptune is the source, all that is, the meaning of everything. At the time back in Pisces, already direct, was retrograde, final time direct before they both move into Aries at the beginning of this year. So this was an initiation that yes, we will have to understand the totality of the story we are perceiving, that it actually ended, but we, you know, there's always a delay with all the senses. And through the contrast, we can choose something different. So everybody is playing their role. You playing your role, the people at the world stage are playing their role, and everything is serving. It's serving a creation, a new creation, because Saturn is already in Leo Decan. Saturn is actually preparing for his retrograde. I believe he's already in his pre-retrograde shadow. Soon to be stationed in retrograde. I believe that's going to be, yeah, in July. Yeah, because next month we only have Mercury retrograde. But in any case, so yeah, Saturn will be still direct for his full moon. But in any case, Saturn is already in a second decan of Aries, which is all about creation. creation, new direction we are creating by being fools, by going beyond the known, because we don't know, if we knew, then we will be just replicating the past. So anyway, so all of that said, like I mentioned, Pluto is trining the sun, sextile in the moon, positive aspect, right? Good. Then also Saturn and Neptune are both trining the moon, sextile in the sun. And and then we have the squares. We have the square between, technically there is still a square between Neptune and Jupiter. And also there are some asteroids, Vesta and Pallas, also being in sign of Aries in the first decan, being in a square with Jupiter. Well, technically Pallas is on 10 degrees. And the square to the nodes. The square to the nodes is the most important, from Uranus and from the Sun. And actually the lunation itself, as I mentioned. But also from the Uranus as the ruler of Pluto, which is trining the Sun. What are we creating? Because Sun, ruler of the Leo, Saturn in a decan of the Leo, of Aries, we are creating a new experience for everyone, for yourself and for the collective. So we are at that point where we do have a free will choice of what it would be. We are soon to enter into the eclipse season in July, and then the free will be not as tangible during the eclipse season. Whatever has to happen will happen. But at this stage, especially with the Gemini season, the season of the choice, we have the freedom to choose. What do I want to focus on? What do I want to consume? What do I want to program myself with? Because we are being programmed all the time. So do I want to be programming myself with what I want? Or do I want to continue being programmed by the external? Not playing the ignorant. We are aware things are happening. But to which extent do I allow it to affect my everyday present moment, right? Because then I have to take responsibility that yes, I'm allowing that. Yes, I'm seeking this information. Yes, I'm caught in the drama, in the drama of it. So that's what I mean. We always have a freedom to choose. Choose what are we creating, by what are we focusing on, by what are we paying attention to. So this is why everything is where it is, to create the pressure with the square to the lunar nodes, for us to be aware, for us to be present with the 23 degrees of Jupiter being a sign of Cancer, of what does have a meaning and what has lost the meaning. Because with the Saturn and Neptune trining the moon, sextile in the sun, there is an opportunity for us to create whatever we want. Because then with the new moon in Sagittarius in December of this year, the energy will change again. So anyway, long roundabout talk about the same thing. So I'm just gonna pull 3 cards because I don't have all my decks present at the moment, but I'm gonna pull Queen of the Moon. So let's see, Queen of the Moon, what is the energy for this full moon in Sagittarius, please? Okay, 2. Well, of course, because it's a Gemini. It's a Gemini season, 2 cards. So we have resistance and creation. Yeah, both makes perfect sense, right? We are resisting change because, change is scary. We don't know what's going on, what we're gonna do, So here is the opportunity to create, There is a lot of resistance going on because a lot of people would say, better the devil, isn't this better, knowing like what and how and stuff. But this is a waning crescent. This is the moon to Pluto, waning crescent, right? So it's saying like, no, this story has ended. There is, you can resist it all you want. I can resist it all you want, but the story has ended. The evolution continues. The birds, they fly free. The birds are very like it's the air, it's the Aquarian frequency. They want to fly free. They don't want to be put in a cage. That's the worst destiny for a bird, to be put in a cage. The one thing that's here to be free forever. So here we go, that there is a lot of resistance. The resistance is coming from us, but the resistance is also coming from those that created this world, this structure of the world, because they don't want you to be free, They want you to continue recreating the story they want to be experiencing. So this is why we have to be conscious. What am I consuming? What am I paying attention to? So resistance, this is a number 25. Number 7, also 25 in astrology is the Aries degree. So what are we learning? What are we learning through resistance? And also the creation, 39. So this is a number 3, you know, or number 12. What do we want to create? You know, there is something that want to be created. Full moon, here we go. And all the scripts, you know, what did we learn? We are in a process of, this is like like I said, like what I started with, the full moon is a midpoint. So where do you want to go from here? What do you want to create? You know, there is a lot of resistance from inner and outer, you know, because things are changing. The old world has been destroyed, but in a sense that gives the freedom to find a new one, to create a new one. So what it is we want to create. And then at the bottom of the deck we have the wisdom. Yeah, the wisdom keeper, Sagittarius, Jupiter. You know, everything that ever happened on this planet exists in you, you know, the good, bad, ugly, all of it. Yeah, the mutual reception between the moon. This is number 22, the master number frequency, right? 22, where Jupiter was last time, during the time of the new moon. And look, there is a boat in a cloud. We are setting on the journey that we don't know. We don't know where we're going. And this is a waning gibbous. That's the harvest. So yeah, so these cards flow together, resistant for change, you know, inner and outer, because it's scary, you know. Yes, that's what set us free, but freedoms, like I said, freedom takes responsibility. Capricorn, you know, the Capricorn element, the in conjunction between between Gemini and Capricorn, and then Leo and Capricorn. Freedom takes responsibility. People say I want to be free, but do they? Nobody wants to take responsibility, right? And then what do we want to create? Learning from the past, you know, sitting on the shoulders of our ancestors, all these stories that's already been written. What have we learned? What new story can we create? And it will be created. Either you will create it or we will create it for you, because the eclipses always take care of that. So at the time we are in the time of the year when free will is fully yours. Sacred destiny. Where are we going with all of this? Sacred destiny. Okay. Sagittarius Full Moon, Sacred destiny. New beginnings. Isn't this card that came up last time? I know it came up for someone in the reading, but maybe it came up last time I used this deck, I'm not sure. But in any case, like I said, creation is happening. Yes, we might be resisting all we want, but we already graduated. 22, master number frequency, Capricorn degree. We already graduated. So, you know, cannot stay in a school forever. So, even though, yes, school of life, the planet Earth, but yeah, you cannot stay in I don't know, first class or something. So, yeah, new beginnings are opening up for us. And also we will be entering into the second half of 2026, you know, very soon. And then inner peace. So I feel this is connected to the wisdom, you know, having the wisdom to understand that yes, things are changing. There is a new reality being created, some of which we will enjoy, some of which will be challenging because we are changing. Just like the reality that we had graduated from, that we are leaving behind, the Piscean age. Some of it we enjoyed, some of it we don't enjoy anymore. You know, this is the planet of polarity duality at the moment. So it's always mixed bag of goods. So we are finding the inner peace. The North Node in Pisces in a high frequency, you know, also, you know, Venus in Cancer, soon to be moving into the Piscean Decan. Venus is exalted in Pisces, finding the inner peace in understanding. And also, yes, the conjunction between Venus and Jupiter will be on the Piscean Decan, right? Let me see what degree it was. Venus, Jupiter conjunction, 25 degree, 7, perfect. That's what we had somewhere here, yeah, the resistance. What aspect of me is resisting change because we are afraid, you know? So we are finding the inner peace in understanding that no matter what happens, everything will work out, you know, because eventually you will transcend this physical form, you know? The spirit is eternal, you know? The water, also the flowers, you know, the constant evolution, the transformation. So having the wisdom to accept what we can't change. All right, and final card is gonna be a major arcana. So let's see. Major arcana with regards to the full moon in Sagittarius, May 31st, 2026. What we've got going here? The Hierophant. This is a Taurus card. Number 5. Interesting. Number 5. 23 degrees for Jupiter, right? During this lunation. So creating a new structure. Hierophant. Learning from the past. Taurus. New foundation is being created, especially as Chiron will be transiting through the Taurus soon. And at the bottom, Chariot. So that's interesting because this is the Cancer card and this is the Taurus card, and we are in a Gemini season. So right in between. So with regards to this one, again, number 7. So this is a third time and number 7 is coming up. Number 7, the high learning. Also number 7 is the Libra, the balancing, and you can see the black and the white, the conscious and unconscious. Once you understand both, your conscious and unconscious, just like Yang said, right? Until you become aware of your unconscious, the unconscious will keep ruling your life, creating your life. And you can see all this yellow, also the moon, the connection to High Priestess, the star, connection to the Aquarius, right? The Cancer transform through Aquarius, or Aquarius transform through Cancer, the in conjunction they going on. So yeah, the transformation of the cell is happening through the unknown, through the Aquarius. And we have the Pluto sextiling the moon, sextiling Pluto, trining the sun, like I said, is the waning, the waning crescent, the closing one, waning crescent, that was this one. Yeah. And yeah, the Hierophant, the new foundation is being created because Uranus is done with Taurus. So the old foundation is gone. It's gone. So now we're going through the transformation of self, which is being assisted by Jupiter being a sign of Cancer, and more realized as Jupiter will move out of Cancer, like what this really meant for us. So yeah, here we go. Hierophant and Chariot. And yes, Venus, as the ruler of Taurus, is in the sign of Cancer with Jupiter. So yeah, that's cool. All right, guys, so I'm gonna leave it at this. I don't know if any of what I covered was helpful, but I just shared what came to me in this present moment. Once again, I remind everyone, if you're celebrating birthday, then you can take advantage of the 25% of any of my services if you would like to connect, but the prices are not reachable for you at the moment. Then reach out and we can schedule a donation-based reading as well. But for that, email me directly. So with all of that said, I wish you all a wonderful full moon in Sagittarius. Have a great month of June, because we're entering into it on Monday. And yeah, hopefully I can talk Aaron into recording sunlight soul, so we can pull some cards together. If not, we'll create something at some point together. But yeah, have a wonderful, coming into summer, right? We'll have a solstice next month, but that's for another time. Have a wonderful time, and I'll speak to you again soon. Much love, everyone, and bye for now.